It's time for your number one NAIA men's basketball podcast to begin, as the Road to Muni podcast with Junior and Coach Lubbers begins now.
Joining us today, and it's always a good thing when you're the first coach of the year on the episode or on the Road to Muni podcast, because that means you're the defending national champion as well. But we got Coach Drew Stutts from Freed-Hardeman on. Coach, first and foremost, congratulations on being the defending national champs. A great season last year, a heck of a ride at Muni. Watching your guys compete was a lot of fun, and I know this season you guys come in, with the targets on your back a little bit, but as a defending national champs. But how's the off season been, and how are you guys handling it?
First, I appreciate you having me on. And, last season, just incredible run, especially there in the tournament. Off season's been great. It's been a grind, but a good grind, and try to enjoy a little bit of the success from last year and put together another good team this year. So off season's been good, and just ready to get this thing rolling pretty soon.
Yeah, and I know you guys been practicing and everything, and practices have been going across the country. You guys, anybody so far? I know you guys lost two really good leaders in Quan Lax and JJ Wheat, obviously off the Division I level this year, part of winning national championship. Those two, and being All-Americans, those two were hot commodities. But you do return quite a bit this year as well, which is a good thing for you guys. I think you look down the list. You guys have Gerardo Lane, who actually came off the bench for you last year. I know JJ did too, but you have Gerardo coming off the bench for you guys last year, and I thought that was kind of where you guys really separate yourself. You guys kind of subbed last year and didn't miss a beat. You feel like you guys kind of have that going into this year too?
I really do, to be honest with you. Our plan at this point is to play 10 again, and I think you'll see a lot of the same things from last year with this year's team as far as just depth and a good balance of experience with guys that are maybe young but know their role. And, I hope over the course of the season they just get better and better. But, some big losses in JJ and Quan, and Hunter Skurlock obviously was a senior last year. But I feel like we got a really, really, really good freshman class that came in, and then able to pick up a couple transfers to give us a little bit of experience and some of that depth that you talked about. And those guys are having a great preseason, and I think they fit us and our culture really well. I think they fit our defensive system really well, and, guys that can score the ball. You lose Quan and JJ. That's some offense, really balanced offense last year, but those two guys, good offensive players. And guys like Jordan Stevens and Mackay coming in. I mean, those guys are, All-American, all-conference type guys that, 6'4", 6'5", long, athletic, versatile guys. So I think they fit what we needed, and are great people as well.
How have you seen the success from last year translate as it went into recruiting, right? I mean, it's just such a different story to tell, right? When you're positioning that national title. So how did that influence and help in the recruiting effort?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think it had as big of an impact as people might think it would have.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. As we go through recruiting, the story's the same for everybody. Whoever I get on the phone with, if you heard a recording of me describing our program, it's like, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about, and if you want to be a part of it, we would love for you to be here. But if not, that's okay too, And so my pitch or story that I tell to high school guys or transfers is very much the same. To be honest with you, if I'm just being real transparent, I mean, we missed on some guys that we thought would be good fits here. But I honestly think over the course of, this is my 6th season, sometimes you miss on some guys, and it turns out to be a blessing in disguise. And guys that you think will be perfect for your program, they turn you down and go somewhere else. And, experience has led me to believe that because of the way that we're going about recruiting, we just attract the right people, and guys that aren't attracted to what we're selling, they choose to go somewhere else. And so, it really didn't have as big of an impact as you might think.
Yeah.
we're still a school in a small town, Christian private school. And so, we're not in big city Atlanta or Nashville or, some of these Miami places that people sell. If you choose to come here, you choose to come here for the right reasons and being part of our culture, our school, our basketball program. You're not coming here for all the extra stuff that other places have to sell. And honestly, sometimes it makes things harder on you in the moment as far as landing some guys. But I think in the long run, it's been really good for us because people that choose to come here for basketball and culture and all the right reasons. And, once the season gets here, it makes things a whole lot easier on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know just your culture kind of throws through the entire university too, because I thought one of the fun parts, and I know part of it was because they had a baseball game in Kansas too, but you guys maybe had the biggest student section in Kansas last year in Municipal, just because your baseball team was there, and they were loud and rowdy, and obviously had a big impact for you guys too. But they were a lot of fun, and I know it's really cool when you see those other programs supporting each other as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That was not on the schedule, but they found out, that we were winning, and so he called somebody up in Kansas and scheduled a game for the day after the championship. And so, yeah, just an awesome experience for us and for those guys. And student body here is great about our supporting our program and being there. And that made the event even more special to have all those guys that you go to school with and you interact with every day there to support you. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just diving in, I know you talked about a little bit of your transfers already, and I'll jump into one that you mentioned in Jordan Stevens, and just when you see as we've done this stuff over the years, you start to get to know programs and coaches and styles of play and all that, and when I saw you guys sign him, I just thought he was a perfect fit, especially when you talk about what Quan and JJ, kind of what you were losing with them. I thought, obviously, anytime you had an All-American at another program is always a good thing. But just Jordan Stevens' style of play and the way he goes about it really fits you guys really, really well. And I'm sure you've probably seen that here early on in practices.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good player, veteran player. Comes to us with a lot of experience, and he's hungry right now too. He wants to win, and that's why he came here. And scores the ball in multiple ways. He's a big guard, 6'4", 6'5", strong, can really guard. And so, losing guys like JJ and Quan and being able to have somebody with some experience that can step in and be a lead guard, has been a blessing to us. And, on top of all those things, we try to recruit good people only, and he's just a great person. He's got a lot of maturity to him. He's been great. We've got a big freshman class that we brought in. He's been great with those younger guys. And, it's just been a seamless transition for him.
Yeah, and I'll just bring up another kid that I like a lot for you guys. And he really came on really late for you guys and had a big tournament in Sam Powell. And, I know he's a youngster last year that got kind of grew up quick, I felt like, but hit some big shots all through the tournament. And obviously you guys, and maybe you can talk about, maybe it's part of your style of play and recruiting as well. I know you really pride yourself on the defensive end, but you guys got some big time shooters on the outside too, with Riley and him and others. But I felt like Sam was pulling from half court. I felt like a couple times in the tournament, and that really hurt defenses when he was obviously anytime you make shots hurts defenses. But Sam, a kid, just a sophomore last year, was a lot of fun to watch grow up and hit some big shots in the tournament.
Yeah, no, Sam had a huge tournament. I don't know what his percentage was there in Kansas City, but boy, he shot the pill off the ball. And so, when shots are falling, it makes you look real good, makes coaches happy. But he's had a great preseason. He was a kid that when we were recruited, he came in and redshirted for a year, just physically needed to mature, was a young kid, didn't turn 18 till like the summer before he got to us. And so body's really come on, confidence-wise and just experience-wise in practice, knowing what we're trying to do offensively and defensively. He is having a really good preseason, along with some other guys as well. Peyton Law is a guy coming back to us. He played the second half of the season last year with a broken hand. If you look at him during the tournament, his hand looks like a big club. and he winds up hitting 2 big shots versus Grace in that Final Four game. I know that made them sick and made us happy. But, I mean, he's a guy that's just a warrior and battled, and was super happy for him because he's a guy that can really shoot the ball and score the ball in a lot of ways. But, I mean, he couldn't hardly catch. I mean, he was catching the ball left-handed last year because of the pain in his right hand. So he was really limited offensively second half of the season, but still continued to have a big role, and expect him to have a big season as well this year.
Yeah, he's just another one of those. I'll let Coach jump in too, but he's just another one of those, I think, that just oozes what Freed-Hardeman basketball is all about. You just watching him play, and obviously playing with a broken hand is just going to be toughness to the capital T on that one anyway, but just a tough competitor. And I feel like he is, when you think about Freed-Hardeman basketball, that's kind of, he kind of embolizes what that means to be a Freed-Hardeman Lion.
I agree with that.
Yeah. How does, when you think about, you get started with a new year, fresh season, and sometimes there's an emotional trickle from the previous year, right? People want to talk about, remember last year when, and remember last year when, and I know on the coaching side, you want to likely, I'm assuming, if you're wired like I was, you want to kick that out of the room as much as you can, right? Because this is a new season, new journey. So talk about what that's been like a little bit on the reset, right? Of, hey, we're all 0-0. Let's go at it again, right? What does that reset look like in the locker room?
Yeah, I think it's a little different for us. We got 5 guys back that played significant roles on last year's team. And, we're going to find who those other 5 guys are to pair up with them. And so I think there's a good balance of guys that have some experience and are hungry to get back there. But at the same time, it's a different challenge than if JJ and Quan and some of those other guys were back this year. I just think we got so many guys that are new. I mean, basically half of our team is new this year, and so they're not living in the past. We tried to, late in the year last year, probably May, after we had done all the celebrating that we could do, we just talked about, one of the things I like to do is just reference like seasons as books. So, I brought 5 or 6 books into the meeting room, just talked about, hey, this was the 18-19 season, and talked about it 19-20, 20-21. And after we'd done all the celebrating, I talked about, hey, this is the 24 season. And, we just closed the book, intentionally put it on a shelf and said, we'll go back and we'll open that book up every once in a while. We'll talk about it, but it's closed. This is a new book. Let's start writing this story. And so, honestly, at this point, I really don't think it's been much of a challenge just to be honest with you. I think our guys are hungry. And if I didn't feel that way, I'd let you know. But I honestly, I just feel like we got so much new blood that it's just a perfect combination of guys that are hungry to want to go do it, that haven't, and then guys that have been there that want to get back and have a lot of confidence in the guys that we brought in as well. That'd be one thing I would say is when some of those good players walk out the door and you're that returning group that's coming back, you're like, who's coach going to bring in? Are we going to be good enough again and that's been exciting for them to just see like, hey, we got a chance to be pretty good again.
Yeah, turnover is not always a bad story, right? Sometimes it's healthy, and it's a good opportunity as much as it is a little bit of a sting because you know what you had, but
sure,
you're always trying to get better too, and so it's certainly could be a double-edged sword. And turnover is not always a bad thing.
Coming off what you said a little bit there too, Coach. So I know you guys closed the book on last year. So how do you refocus this year's team and set goals and expectations and kind of what are those? I know you're probably not going to talk about the national championship as much. It's a fun thing to look back on, but also you're trying to look forward as well.
Yeah. I just don't really think goals are not big for us as far as setting goals and, let's win this many games or do this or that. I think we're really heavily focused on the culture and the process. Just being the best team that we can be each day. We're pretty intentional about that with some book studies and different things that we do as far as character development, culture development, outside of practice, in practice. But we're not big on setting a lot of goals. It's just trying to be the best team that we can be each day, trying to form great relationships and true connection within our team. And I think when you just focus on those things, and, it's good to have dreams and goals and that sort of thing, but it's not something that we get fixated on or talk about very much. We just try to compete really hard in practice each day and try to get a little better. So I know it sounds cliche, but honestly, that's kind of how we go about our business.
Yeah, and I can't let you go without talking about the Mid-South a little bit. I know, we've had 4 national championships since the merger, and 2 of them come from the league. And I know the Mid-South has had some changes over the last 5 years here, but smaller league. But obviously, you guys showed last year it doesn't matter the size of the league, because especially the top teams over there in the Mid-South proved once again the Mid-South is one of the best leagues in the country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a different league than it was when we came into it 5 years ago. I mean, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, hands down the best league by far. I mean, our 10th, 11th, 12th teams were really, really teams that left our conference and went to another conference and won the conference the next year. And that, I mean, that's just with a very similar team, But I mean, as far as the state of the Mid-South right now in basketball, I mean, I think we've got just super talented teams. I mean, when you look at teams like us, Cumberland's Kentucky, obviously Georgetown, Lindsey Wilson, Cumberland, Tennessee, some of those teams are a little inconsistent at times, but they've got really talented teams. They've got really talented players. But, I think the top half of our league for sure is going to always be really good. And when you play some of those teams, it's gonna let you know real quick where you stack up nationally. If you can compete with those top 2 or 3 teams in our league, I feel like you've got a chance to at least compete for a national championship. And we've traditionally tried to play a really tough strength of schedule. I couldn't tell you exactly what ours has been every year, but I know it's been top 20 all 5 years that I've been here. And you may not stack up as many wins, but I think really when you're trying to develop your team, you need to be challenged. And, if we get bumped up a seed or down a seed based on a couple of wins or losses, it's really about just being prepared. And the only way you can do that is by playing the best teams. And I think our schedule this year, we got 16 non-conference games, which is really hard to fill after you win a national championship. I will say that.
Good luck with that. Get some guarantee money, really good.
It was not fun, but I mean, we're playing Arizona Christian, and we play Central Baptist, we play Southeastern, we play LSU. I mean, we got quite a few teams, Life, and some others. I hate to leave some people off, but I mean, we've got I think probably 10 of the 16 games are teams that played in the national tournament last year on top of our conference schedule. So I think it's a really good schedule for us, and it'll challenge us early. And, we may drop a game here or there early on because we're playing some good teams, but, we'll bounce back and be better for it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of schedules across the country. I know you guys definitely have one of the toughest, if not the toughest on paper to start the year. And looking forward to watching a lot of your guys' games. Obviously, either way, would have watched a lot of them. But I think that probably going to see some games of the week featuring the Lions, because you guys definitely have a tough schedule heading into the year. You have anything else, Coach?
No,
Coach
we're
Lubbers?
good.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Perfect. Well, Coach, I know I appreciate you coming on and giving us some of your time. Again, I know last year was an awesome year for you guys, and I'm excited to see what the Lions have this year as well, because I know watching you guys compete like maybe the best competitive team out there across the country. And if anybody that's playing you guys, I can tell you, if you're not ready to come in and compete and be tough, you're in for a long night. So obviously wishing you guys the best of luck this season. And again, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having us, and looking forward to a big year.
Yeah, good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Next up on the tip-off show is Coach Scott Moore at Grace. Coach, I know, we talked a little bit offline, and you guys are second week into practicing, and you guys lost a lot of faces between, the NAIA National Player of the Year and Elijah Malone, another player that chose to go the D1 route. And then you guys, the Gibbs brothers, both Elijah's at Colorado, and then the Caden Jacob Gibbs are at Marshall, and then obviously lose Jake Wadding as well, an important piece to you guys, and a couple others important pieces to you. But you guys kind of the way you guys are built, and the way you guys just talking to you guys in the past years here. You guys always do a good job of just next man up, and it sounds like you guys definitely have some pieces there that are ready to take that next big step to fill those shoes.
Yeah. Well, there's about a 24, 48 hour spot there where I'm going, do I want to do this anymore? Just retire with those guys. Yeah, you're right. There is that's intentional. I think any coach will tell you, like, how do you replace that guy? But I also would go as far back there are some guys that, and Kevin can explain this, like there are guys that you lose also in your program that don't have as much impact on the floor that you lose that are hard to replace. And luckily for us, the way we're built is I'm a big high school guy. I'm a big 4-year guy. We will sprinkle in transfers. We've done that before, and we will take the right transfer, obviously. But I've seen it now. Like we're into our second week of practice, and you're sitting there and like, oh man, how do you replace the twins? And then you turn around and you see my two sophomores, especially Gage Sefton and Ian Rosh. Like, gosh,
Yeah.
forgot they're really, really good. They just, were playing behind 8 other guys, and so yeah, it's always a challenge, especially E. E was such a unique player, but there are some things, obviously we won't do as well, but there are some things you can see like, okay, without that presence in the middle, especially offensively, it does open things up a little bit. We are able to move and cut a little bit. So yeah, it's just trying to find ways to help these guys that we have. You just take advantage of their strengths.
Yeah, and I think that's an important topic, and maybe you can elaborate more on it. I think what gets lost a lot is that you guys had Elijah, who played inside and out for you guys, and I think it's always fun when maybe scary for you, but fun to watch him sometimes when he's taking off dribbling, and maybe not the full court, but when he's shot faking and driving to the rim and stuff, because it was so nimble on his feet too. But you lose a player like that, and you guys had a lot of offense that went through him. Not necessarily, you guys didn't necessarily try to overfeed him, but definitely offense went through him. But you do a good job of also adjusting to your personnel a little bit. I know you guys will mostly keep things similar, but also now you're going to play a little bit different this year through the guys and the personnel that you have.
Well, when we recruit players, I also will tell them like he's an alpha, right? Like he's different, and we knew, and I made it very clear, like, hey, when we need a bucket, like I'm a bad basketball coach if I don't find a way to get him the basketball. Like it's not that difficult. He's better than your guy. Get him the ball in an area where he can be successful. Get out of the way. However, the way we play, like I've never been a big one main scorer guy. If you look, like this is weird, but like I love kind of had this idea of if we can get 6 to 7 guys in double figures averaging, what I thought was, okay, one, that's a fun team to play on because guys are unselfish. 2, if you do have an off night or you get taken away, okay, we still have 4, 5, 6 other guys. Last year we had 8 guys that scored 15 points or more in a basketball game. And so I do think that somewhat plays to our advantage in this case. Yes, we did a lot of through E, and Ian Scott this year, we're going to do a ton through. But if I ever lost those guys, I never wanted to be like, okay, well, now we can't win. Because everything we do is designed for one person. It's not. It's designed for all 5 guys on the floor. And so hopefully the way we play and how we recruit and what we do, it's going to be different. But, hopefully we have 6, 7 guys this year that, again, can pick up that slack. And one of my favorite things to do is to sit here and listen to coaches talk, once we get to December, like, where did this kid come from? It's like, well, he's been here. He's just, you're playing behind the Gibbs twins and Jake Wadding and, Ian Scott and Frankie Davidson. And like, there's guys before you that, Frankie Davidson was going to be hard to replace. Right. And then all of a sudden a year later, and no offense to Frank, but nobody's talking about Frank. They're always talking about E. And then hopefully it's the same thing and keeps going.
Yeah. And I think, that's one of the questions that I like to ask in the early season. And you've brought up both Gage and Ian already as youngsters that are ready. But is in the preseason now and two weeks into practice, are you seeing some guys that maybe are stepping up that you're wanting to maybe, but didn't know if they were ready to make that jump yet?
Yeah, those two particular, like
Yep.
the Ian Scott is as advertised. Like I know he's the sixth man. He's been the sixth man for 3 years in a row, but like he's gonna have a chance in the country to be one of those household names just because he can do so much, and now he has a role that he's gonna have to. Ian Rosh was an Indiana All-Star. Like
Yep.
that's one of the top 12 seniors in Indiana that is as a senior. So like you see his skill set, and then obviously Gage is just, you saw it randomly with Gage where we're up a couple and you're like, hey, let's let the young guy roll. He's not little, but let the young guy roll. And I think he played really well against Bushnell, and he played good against Oregon Tech out west, and some conference games. But you're in practice and you're going, man, oh man, like they're not Jacob and Cade, but they're different in some positive ways, and some negative ways too. But my seniors too, like the one thing I think will have a chance is we have 3 guards that are seniors, and they're 3 national tournament guys. And
Yep.
those are the 3 guys that will get the least amount of pub because they're not big time scorers. But, Bryson and Carter and Brett Sikafus, all 3 of those guys have averaged 20 minutes a game and have been in 3 national tournaments. And like at the end of the day, you cannot put a price tag on the experience and just the steadiness of that position. And so we got a couple of freshmen that have been really impressive so far. Obviously as a freshman, it's hard because it's a whirlwind. It's so fast, and you're trying to, get time, but also learn and not screw up. And just there's so much going through their head. But I do think we have a couple guys as freshmen that'll be able to help us out as well.
And those kids too are interesting to watch, right? Because your starting lineup, night one may not be your starting lineup, and your rotational definitely change flavor as you move through the year. And who are a couple of those younger kids that, as a staff, you got your eyes on? You say may not be ready today, but come December, January, February, you may have worked your way into a role. Who are some of those younger kids that you see potentially finding their way into some time?
Yeah,
later?
but really 2 freshmen in general. We got a kid from Noblesville High School, which one thing I like about recruiting in Indiana is, man, like there is a real thing of recruiting from great programs, and we've been blessed here with just a ton of them. And here's a kid who they were the 2nd ranked team in the state all year long. And to be honest with you, I didn't even we were recruiting a different kid on the same team. And we go and we watch, and there's no offense to the other kid that was playing there, but every time I kept going to Noblesville, I kept watching like, man, they're 23-1, and I can't keep taking my eyes. It did help that he was a 6'7" like point forward. I think we got that area covered on my team,
Is that
but
okay? Yeah, that's good.
he just wins, and he does all those little things. You look in a box score and it wouldn't necessarily show up. And it is funny because when you get a style and you get this idea of who you are and what you want to be as a program, and then you stick to your guns and recruit those kids who you believe, and disregard any rankings, disregard what anyone else says, trust your heart, trust your eyes. And this kid has come in, Hunter Walston's his name, and just, man, he's just savvy. He has a great feel, a super high IQ. He knows how to play basketball. And so I'm excited to see where he goes, and especially playing that type of high school against high level kids. Those kids transition really well. We got another kid from Fort Wayne, 6'4", 6'5" shooting guard, again, who's just, his IQ, he processes really quick, and he's in a really good position because he'll be able to play this year, but be surrounded by, a bunch of other seniors, to where, like, dude, your role, I only really need you to do this and this, and just do that really well, and you'll be great. And so I think he'll have a really good freshman year statistically just because of that. And then we got 2 other freshmen. Two bigger kids that, man, I tell you what, both of them, they play so hard. That's one thing, like, they're gonna make it because of how hard they play. Like, they'll just figure it out, and the game's really fast for them both right now. But man, did they play hard and they get after it. And so, like, I just love this class. The 24 class, was not labeled as a big one in Indiana. But I think we got four kids that I think all four of them, Kevin, especially those two, have a chance come November, December. You're like, man, these kids are going to be able to play.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun when you get that internal competition, right? Too, it's a good
For
story
sure.
to tell your team, which is, hey, here's where we're starting from, and the door's wide open, right? It's whoever can compete and execute and produce results and help the team win, and which combination of guys, and sorting your way through all that. And sometimes that we were just talking about it with previous coach on, which is turnover is not always a bad thing.
No.
Healthy turnover is a good thing when you can, because it re-energizes that internal competitive fire that's required to be really good. And so it's certainly fun to hear about what you got going on. And I'm sure as you think about practices, there's times where you pull Junior's hair out because ours is already gone. But, that you get frustrated with it too, right? Like we were talking about offline a little bit. So,
Yeah, it's also refreshing because
yeah.
last year, that's the best part about coaching is every year is a new journey. And last year, I didn't coach a lot of basketball. I spent a lot of time taking a lot of alphas, keeping them on the same page, going in the same direction, which is also challenging.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like keeping, like, again, trying to convince Ian Scott, like, trust me, man, like, you're not going to start, but like you can, and you probably would everywhere else. But like this is going to help us win 34, 35 games, and like the buy-in that those kids have, and then now, having a new team. One thing that we do a great job as a staff, you can ask any player that comes into our system. I never, ever promise any kid a role, ever. I don't tell them they're going to start. I don't tell, like, again, Kevin and I have talked about this before. Like, once you start talking about like playing time and like roles and this, like, it's a fine line. It becomes a selfish conversation, where it's now you're turning, it's about me. It's not about us. I'm okay with having those conversations if it's in the stem of like, what can you do to help us get better, right? But when it comes to starting or playing 30 minutes or playing 20 minutes, it's like, we're just, those conversations, man, like, we'll have them, but you're not going to like them. And that's not a threat, but what it also does is we do a good job of, I'm not telling any kid who comes in our program, you're going to play this, you're going to start, you're going to do this. Like, making the lineup is one of the easiest things that we do as coaches. It just makes itself. Like, literally, it makes itself, and very few times do you have to kind of handle that. So, but it's fun. I find myself coaching basketball a little bit more, a little bit more X's and O's, a little bit more kind of the fundamental part of it. And it's kind of fun because in a weird way, I didn't have to do that for 18 months.
I think it's also important to highlight, and I know this happens at every level, but when you see the teams at the national tournament, and you've been there 3 years, you'll know, and you've played in it. I mean, sure, it was even back then it was similar, but even more different this year, or these last few years. Now they're one division, that you have to have that depth too. You can't go win an Ash title with five players, like, or even three studs and a bunch of role players. Like, you got to have some dudes. I mean, not to throw Freed out there. I know that's who knocked you guys off last year, but they had All American off the bench for him. Like, those guys. I think the competition in practice makes you very, very good. And you're in a good league, obviously, too. So you guys are not going to be short on tough games that are going to help build you as well. But when you're as deep as you guys are and have the talent and the depth, I think the players sometimes forget that they can get better each day in practice just by going up against that guy next to them. Because if you don't like competition, you're not going to make it anyway.
Yeah.
I know we're in a transfer world, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. But I think if you're afraid of competition, sometimes players just want to be that guy or that man, and usually that doesn't pan out as a team, especially at our level. I feel like at the NAIA level, when you get to the national tournament, those teams that are fully teams and 8, 9, 10, 11 deep are the ones that usually you see in the Fab Four.
And that's the sweet spot. Like coaches will always have their preference on how many guys they play.
Yeah.
Some guys are dead set, 7 guys. I'm playing 7 guys, and that's my rotation. Some guys, Colby's big on. He's going to play the 10, 11. It's by a card. It's it's kind of strict, put together for him. So I always just said this, like, look, we played 10 guys last year because I had 10 good players.
Yeah.
And this year, I don't know. Like, we might play 10, but we could play 7. But I do believe that you're right on that. I think to win the ultimate thing, which is conference championship, get to the national tournament, get to Kansas City, and make a run, it's hard to do with 6 guys, 7 guys. Like, when you see Freed and you see Grace and you see Langston and you see Wesleyan and you see like the guys coming off the bench and like
Yeah.
it just keeps going, like you're like, man, it's just exhausting. Like, I got to play against JJ Wheat's not even starting. It's like, how do you plan for that, right? How do you plan for Ian Scott coming off the bench when Malone goes out and playing 26 minutes? So, yeah, I'm a believer in it. I think that's what we try to recruit, 10, 11 guys who can play and hopefully, and development's a big key for us. I think,
Yeah.
again, some people try to do the transfer thing, and I think that is important, and I'm not knocking that at all. I mean, we got a transfer who is going to be really good for us. He's going to bolster our front line, and he can really shoot it. And, he's a great teammate. So that's a big get for us. But yeah, I like the development and seeing, again, Gage Sefton, by we get to conference, people are going to go, gosh, like, he's really good. And yeah, he is, because he's got a chance to play now and prove everybody what he's got.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun part too. At least for me, it's fun seeing those guys make that next stride. You watch them sometimes as freshmen, and they do well in their 5 or 7, 10 minutes a game that they do. But then when they start getting that opportunity that opens up, and I think that a lot of kids in the college grow the best year to grow is in between your freshman and sophomore year anyway. So I really love watching those kids from freshman to sophomore year take that big jump once I get accustomed to college a little bit. But I know you guys have a couple of them they'll be stepping up into minutes. That'll be fun to watch this year. But and you're going to need it, because I know we'll move over to the Crossroads League. It leaves you battle tested. It's one of the best leagues in the country, and you guys, like I said earlier, you're not going to be short on tough games. I know there's some turnover in players and turnovers, and even on coaches. I feel like this year has been, you don't usually see that out of the Crossroads League, but it's going to be a very competitive league once again this year.
Yeah, I think what's unique is we started kind of going across, and I was curious, just checking across the country, getting ready for the preseason rankings and things like that. I kind of helped head up, and I'm like, holy smokes, there's a lot of players that left the NAIA last year from graduation or transfer, and you're looking at even the first team All-Americans, like, man, what is it, 1 left? And
Three left.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's in our league, you're going down the team, and we're trying to do preseason. We do preseason rankings like anyone else, and I think it's the dumbest thing ever, personally. But I understand why we do it, for media purposes and getting stuff. But it's like, man, Buchanan's gone. My team's roster is completely different. Zach Goodline's no longer there. Drew Lutz is no longer there. Like, you keep going down the list, and you're like, man, Spring Arbor's just going up the list just because they got their guys and they stayed. And they're really good. So yeah, the league will be fun. It's you grow accustomed to it, and I think one thing that I've done a better job as a coach is knowing, like, you humble yourself pretty quick on like how good these guys are, coaches and players, but there becomes an understanding of, like, I'm in year 6 as the head coach, and not saying that I don't, like, notice what's going on, but I really don't care anymore what the other 9 teams are doing, because you bring nightmares into your head. Like, I know this. Wesleyan's going to get transfers. St. Francis is going to go get dudes. Steve Draven's going to get guys, right? Corey's going to get some guy that's going to be a 6-foot guard who averages 24 points a game. Like, it's rinse and repeat. Pat Knight's coming in the league. Like, they're all so good at what they do. I think I really waste a lot of energy trying to focus on what they're doing, and just really focus on, okay, Grace basketball. How can we be the best version of ourselves to, when we get up against those giants, have a chance? And we'll see. Like, it's going to be different. This year is going to be different with all those guys that we talked about are gone.
Yeah.
And I think every coach in the league would tell you the same thing. We're all just trying to figure it out.
Well, and October 1st is definitely not and I know we're the first week of October technically, but it's not a time that you worry about anybody else but your team. I know, again, not to allude too much of off camera talks, but I know every coach when we talk behind the scenes is they are trying to figure stuff out right now because there are some battles of practice is kind of gets this is that long time period between that first opening practice and the first game, and it can kind of sometimes be very challenging. I know you guys always do a great job. All the coaches do a good job of trying to mix things up for a little bit to keep guys engaged. So
Yeah, once you start, the hypotheticals is the dangerous place to live in. Once you start trying hypotheticals, you're like, man, your brain could go down a cellar quick. And so I try really hard and just do a good job of like, okay, not only our team, but our guys individually, our coaches, how can we keep getting, like, we've got this thing to a place where I'm very proud of like the program and just what it stands for, the kids we get, the following we have, like, so we've established this. And then it's really easy just to get content of like, okay, this is what it is now, and just kind of not continue to grow. And so I'm in a weird transition myself as a coach where it's like, okay, how do I continue to get better? And even winning last year, like if we beat Freed and we knock off Langston and we win the whole thing, well, then what? Right. And Kevin would tell you this. Well, it depends what your why is. It depends what your end goal is. If my goal is always to win that last game and hang that banner, but like I told the person after we lost to Freed, it's like, guys, I'm okay. Like I know what my why is. Like I wanted to win. It sucks. I'm hurting inside, but I'm hurting because those boys. I'm not hurting because Coach Moore didn't win his last game. I could care less. Like you're hurting because you see the tears in Wadding's eyes, knowing that he's not going to be able to play with Elijah, his roommate, for 4 years anymore, and their time is done.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of where I'm at, kind of as a coach, and it is. You guys said the word re-energized. Like it is a little bit re-energizing at the beginning of every year, and I hope more than anything, I hope that we can put a product on the floor that really represents who we are, represents the school, represents Christ. And I hope people see that whether we win a bunch of games, we lose a bunch of games. I'm having another kid in January anyway. So I told everybody that, hey, if we suck, don't matter because January 16th is coming along and I'm going to be really happy knowing that that's probably not the case. But man, just things are good and just really excited for the year.
Yep. But I know, congratulations to your wife. I know you and I have texted in the off season. We're our babies are going to be 2 weeks apart. So,
I know.
Junior, does that mean I'm running the show for a
You're
couple
running the
weeks?
show.
we may
NAIA Hoops Report's going to take a different turn here for a couple weeks in January. Let me run the technology piece, buddy. I'll run it off the rails for you quickly.
It'll be audio only when Kevin does
Audio
it.
only, no social media.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back to the throwback days. Send out newspapers.
I'm surprised you're not in like a cabin or tent somewhere. By the way, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
you have no idea where I am, Scotty.
I don't. I
Hey,
don't.
it's so funny when you're talking about. It's almost like your house, right? You look at your neighbor's house, and then your neighbor's house. There's always one better, right? There's always somebody on. You live in the seat of envy, and it really doesn't get you anywhere. And so when you think about other programs, and boy, what did they get this year? And what did they get this year? And they got that new arena, new players. And it doesn't matter, right? It's all about your program, the kids that are sitting in front of you, the ones that you're coaching, and every second you spend worrying about what somebody else has is a minute you take your eye off the ball on the opportunity sitting in front of you and the lives that are sitting in front of you, and how can you make those better? That's it.
And you're right. You've heard it before, but it is the ultimate thief of joy. Like you want to see joy disappear, then compare to anything you can possibly compare to. And it's, sometimes I sit in athletic meetings, and I hope my AD doesn't like watch this, because I do get to points where I'm like, hey, like, man, what I'm doing, like my bad days at work, is someone else's dream. It's somebody else's miracle, man. Like so I try really, really hard to understand, like, look, I'm not sitting here at the plate, man. Like we're at third base. Like we got a great gym. I've got great administration. This was my alma mater, man. We got a lot of great things going. I hope I don't ever take that for granted. And I hope that I respect and have a level of appreciation for everybody who does this. Coaching is a lonely profession at times. And it's lonely because as coaches, sometimes we choose to be on that island. And I don't think we need to. I'm trying really, in fact, it's kind of funny we're talking because I tried to reach out to a few coaches of mine and I was like, you know what, we should probably start I'd love to start one time a month or a couple times a month, getting 15, 20 coaches that do this, even in the same league, and just talking about life, faith, our families, and just understanding man, you don't know. A coach is the only person who knows what another coach is going through. It truly is the one profession that's so unique in that. So I think we need each other in that way. I think there's a lot of healthy conversations to be had with that. And so hopefully we can put something like that together and just, again, keep the why the main reason, right? Keep the kids the main reason. Don't lose track of that. And I know we're so competitive that sometimes we do. And I find myself doing it constantly. And I got to just keep telling myself, no, man, God's blessed us. I hope I'm doing a service here to reflect him, reflect who we are, and just put out a really good product that people can be proud of.
Yeah, and Coach, you guys have done a good job of that over the last few years, and I know it'll continue this year. We're looking forward to watching the Lancers play here in a month. I mean, it's coming up fast, but appreciate you giving us your time today. And I know you guys, like I said, you guys have some 7 seniors that we're looking forward to watching, but even some youngsters that you've talked about. I'm sure we'll have the Lancers in the mix this year as well.
And how about this? My 25 class, I'm done. Recruited, signed, delivered. We're finished.
Probably the only NAIA in the country.
Golly, I told it's going to be a fun winter, just going to games, eating popcorn, and not having to schmooze anyone to come play for me. But no, thanks for what you do, guys. And I want to know before we go, where does Kevin Lubbers have us in the preseason magazine ratings? Where are we at?
The preseason magazine ratings?
Yeah, where did you put us?
Juniors World, so we're.
You didn't put that? Where Junior put us?
Huh? Well,
where Junior put us?
You got to wait till the magazine comes out, Scott.
Yeah,
there's no
inside information.
There's no insider
rankings.
He's going to take us out of the rankings.
You're fighting down every second here.
There's nothing more irrelevant. You know this. You just said it before. There's nothing more irrelevant than a ranking.
Drop going back on my words right there.
Thing ever.
Drop 3 notches just in this conversation alone. Yeah. So
well, I'm pushing Spring Arbor. Let's get them up there in the rankings. You can replace them with the Lancers.
There's a lot of Spring Arbor talk. I will say that. So and a lot of Lancer talk as well. But Coach, again, thank you for coming on. I know we'll catch up with you, of course, over the course of the year as well. But good to have you on the Tip Off Show.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, buddy.